Hey everybody, this is Ted Lowe, one of the hosts of the Married People podcast, where we want to make marriage real, fun, and simple. My partners and co-host Afton and CJ aren't with me today, which makes me sad. But what makes me happy is you getting to hear from Derek and Carrie Beth Chitwood, where we look at the question, does working with my spouse work for my marriage? You see, Derek and Carrie Beth work together every day in a business that Derek founded in 2009, Peach State Pride. It's a clothing and merchandise company that represents the history, heritage, and people of Georgia. Derek and Carrie Beth live right outside of Athens, where Peach State Pride is headquartered. And I loved how they talked about having a great marriage and a great business. I love the way they talk to and about each other, which is good for every marriage, whether you work together or not. So let's dive in, and you'll quickly see what I mean about two people who know how to work together, but also know how to love together. Derek and Carrie, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Good deal. Well, here's the word on the street about you guys. We understand that not only do you have a great marriage, you got a great business, which I've read a stat recently that talks about how few people are actually wired to be able to have that, to have a great marriage and work together. I know my wife and I figured out long ago, that's not a good thing for us to work together in that certain way. So thanks for hanging out with us a little day. Tell me a little bit about how long you guys have been married, a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so we got married in the spring of 2013. We're working on five and a half years right now. And we met each other. We actually grew up in the same county, in different towns, but same county. And there was only one county high school. So we were kind of in the same school system. But she was 3 years younger than me, and I never actually met her. I knew her older sister. But she moved off when she was going to be a freshman in high school, and I was a senior, so we were actually never in school together. But she kind of knew who I was.
He was the cute older guy that we all had a crush on.
Nice.
She kind of knew who I was, and I knew her older sister and her future brother-in-law, and went to school down in Milledgeville at Georgia College, and actually went to school with her future brother-in-law down there. And I knew her because she went on to Georgia Tech, and she became a cheerleader at Georgia Tech. And I had grown up a Georgia Tech fan, and I would go to the games, and I knew that, okay, Katie Brown's little sister cheers. Which one is she? And I kind of figured out who she was. And so I kind of knew who she was, and she knew who I was. But we had never met. And when she was a senior at Tech, I just asked her brother-in-law, who's a friend of mine, just, what's going on with Carrie? Is she still cheering? And he said, yeah, she's still there. She's got one more semester, and she's not dating anybody, so you should reach out. So I did, and we went on a date to an Eric Church concert in Dahlonega. That was the first time we had met. We had talked, but at that point hadn't met. So been together ever since.
Good deal. Carrie, is that the true story? Is that how this went down, or you've got a different version of this
No,
story?
that's how it went. Yeah, my older sister used to tease me about Derek Chitwood. And just before I'd ever met him, and I would roll my eyes, but so I guess I had a crush from afar before I knew him. But
That's awesome. All you had to do is cheer for his team, literally, and you won his heart, right? Yeah. I love that. So you guys had been married for 5 years. Talk a little bit about your business, Peach State Pride. Tell us how that came to be.
Yeah, so I started Peach State Pride, which is a clothing brand that promotes the state of Georgia. In 2009, I had graduated from college and was going to go to Clemson to grad school, but was taking a year off. I moved to Athens, was kind of hanging out with some friends, and I was working for a company that built playgrounds in South Carolina. And we kept traveling to South Carolina to build these playgrounds, and I kept seeing the palm tree crescent moon, which is on their state flag. It's got a ton of history behind it, but what was cool about it was this kind of abstract logo that unified the state of South Carolina. So it didn't matter if you were from the upstate or if you were from the low country or the PD or, Columbia, Greenville. It didn't matter what part of the state you were from. Everybody was kind of unified by this logo. I mean, you see it on downtown murals. You'd see it on, decals on cars, T-shirts. And I thought it was so cool. I was so proud of being from Georgia. But we didn't really have that. We got the state flag, like, every state. But I was like, man, it's so cool they got something like that. And so I'd grown up picking peaches every single summer with my grandpa in his orchard. So I was always really, really proud of being from the Peach State, probably more so than most Georgians. Just really proud of that tradition. And I went home after one playground job and drew the logo and started dreaming up about it being the logo for the state of Georgia. And my roommates, I wasn't even going to make it a clothing line. I was just kind of thinking decals and downtown murals and whatever came of it. And my roommates were like, you should make some T-shirts and hats. So I did that and started selling to friends. And I had a friend that wanted to carry the line at a Ace Hardware back in Royston, Georgia. So I did that, and then it just kind of started to spread. Other stores wanted to carry us, and it just kind of took off. So I was a history major in college, had no business background, had no interest in clothing, to having a clothing line. And kind of had to figure out that. But at the time, in 2009, we were kind of getting on this little movement of Southern clothing lines. I was kind of getting in on the ground floor, and really, like, pretty much everything I was putting out, even though it wasn't the best, even though I wasn't some fashionista, people were buying it. So I had a little bit of time, despite my shortcomings, to kind of get good at the clothing business. So that was kind of going on in 2009. And Beth and I started dating in the end of 2010, and she, I think she thought I was a little bit crazy, but also saw some potential there. And she brought a lot of her strengths to the table, which were my weaknesses, which we'll probably talk about, I'm sure, as how we're able to work together. But I'm kind of a creative. I'm a visionary. Beth's structured. She loves systems and operations, and so we kind of mesh well there. So,
gotcha. So, Carrie, what about you? Tell me a little bit about school. What did you focus in on school?
So I was a management major, and I got a certificate in marketing. After I graduated, I went and worked for a decent-sized company in Buckhead doing marketing, and was kind of going to try to climb the corporate ladder. And then after a couple of years, I decided I was volunteering for like an after-school program with my church, and I don't know, I guess it was a little bit millennial maybe at the time, but I decided, I didn't want to work in business anymore. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to change the world, because that was what I was enjoying doing, was working with kids. So I quit my job and went back to grad school to teach, thinking, I hate business. It's all evil. Ironically. But then it just so happened that as soon as I finished my master's, rather than taking a teaching job, we were getting married and opening our first store. We have 4 retail stores too. So we were opening our first store, and we needed to hire somebody with basically my skill set. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to just kind of watch from the sidelines. So that's kind of when I came on full time. But from the beginning, I thought Derek was a little crazy. I figured I was going to have to be the breadwinner for the family.
So did you think the idea of what he was trying to create with Peach State Pride, when you say, he's gonna need me here, tell me a little bit about that. So you guys are dating, he started this business, and you're kind of watching from afar a little bit. So did you start helping him, like, while you guys were dating, even with Peach State Pride?
Yeah, I did, for sure. I mean, in as much as I could, I wasn't full time or anything like that, but I think I was the one that he would bounce ideas off of, and definitely with marketing and things like that. After work, I would come home and help as much as I could, not in a full time capacity or anything, but it was fun in those early days. But I definitely thought Derek was a little bit crazy. I think I didn't fully get it. And, it's funny. My mom used to, when we first started dating and I brought him home, she said, I don't know if I like him very much. He's kind of a sloppy dresser. It was just so
things
funny.
You can say now, but not then, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got to impress those mother-in-laws.
Absolutely. That's lesson 1. So Derek, you've got this idea, you're going to go after it. You and Carrie start dating, and she has ideas about your business. Was that great from the start, or did that take a little getting used to? Did you ask for her help, or did she offer it just because she thought you were crazy?
I think she kind of chimed in. I mean, her personality is she wants to help when there's an issue. So I can't remember exactly, but I would think that, it's probably a little bit of both. Maybe I'm asking, but she's also very willing to help. And, again, our skill sets are so different. I wasn't necessarily asking advice on things that I was good at. I was more, needing help and support in areas that she was good at. And I was completely lacking. I didn't have any systems in place. And so I think she saw that void and kind of jumped in and helped there. So
I love that. And so you just from the very beginning went, oh, this is a good thing. You saw the differences, you saw the strengths and weaknesses, and thought, hey, this could work. So you received that from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think as things have gone, as you grow as a person, you start to realize your weaknesses more and more, and my strengths as well. But I think maybe I didn't fully realize the completeness of my weaknesses at that time. I knew it maybe enough.
I love it. Wait, let me pause you on that. I didn't realize the completeness of my weaknesses. That is some self-awareness. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So she's from the very beginning. We kind of complement each other in that way. So yeah.
Gotcha. So what, and I think you guys this is just so many great messages just for marriage across the board that we balance each other's strengths and weaknesses. What are the challenges, or what's been some of the biggest challenges of you guys working together as a couple? It sounds like you guys got off a really good start. You're kind of wired very differently, and you guys saw the strengths in each other. Have there ever been any challenges from the beginning? Are there any challenges now of working together?
Yeah, I definitely think, turning work off is a challenge, and we've kind of got our own little way of doing it now, but we can really wear ourselves out when we work together all day. We come home, and it's not like we can say, hey, how was your day? Because we know exactly how the other
right.
was. And we'll just kind of continue on, the issues that are going on sometimes. But we've kind of gotten to the point where we have a dog named Polly, and we will go on a walk with Polly every evening, and we try to kind of get our final thoughts out. And then kind of leave it at that and let that be the end of our work day. But yeah, that's always kind of been a challenge, is the fact that our days are, for the most part identical, and we kind of, just kind of stay on topic too much. So.
But I think it's nice too, because we're very connected because of that. Like if I had a bad day, usually Derek had a bad day, and vice versa. It's kind of, I don't know, there's never, or very rarely is there this disconnect of, I get home and I'm exhausted, but he doesn't understand that, or I don't know. It's just, I think we're very connected because we're together so much. And I think, definitely we have our disagreements within the business and outside of the business, but I think at the end of the day, I know that this is Derek's thing. Like, he started this business, and it very rarely comes down to, me having to remind myself of that. But at the end of the day, if he wants to make a decision, then I need to respect that. But with that said, I think, as he's mentioned, he fully understands and recognizes the things that I'm good at. Usually those are more of the operational things, the, kind of the structure of the business. And sometimes those are really big decisions. And so because I guess he kind of submits in that way, but then at the end of the day, I know it's his business. So I'm going to submit to him in that way.
But I don't actually see it as my business any more than yours. So I think it's, maybe we both kind of humble in that way, maybe. I don't know.
No, Ephesians 5 talks about mutual submission, mutual respect for each other's. I love this idea of going, let's submit to the other one, especially, to go, hey, I know I'm weak in this area, because I feel like within business or, even in ministry, we can try to get, better at what we're bad at instead of getting great at what we're good at. And the idea of just, hey, don't try to get better at what she's already great at, right? To really submit to that and understand, going, no, you kind of understand this piece of this thing way better than I do. That's a good thing. I wanted to point out something really practical that you guys said, turning the work off. You said when we take Polly out for a walk, that's when we kind of turn off for the day. And I think that's something powerful. Anybody, whether they're working at home or they work together or they're coming home from office, is what is that signal that says, we're done for today when it comes to work. We tell couples all the time, don't walk in on your cell phone. The number one time couples are fighting is when they reconnect at the end of the day. So to have these really strong lines in the sand that say, hey, you know what, this is going to be our time. And I think that's a great example for any married couple.
Yeah.
Are there any other couples that you guys have seen? They're in the same setup as you guys. They're working together, and it's just not going well. Talk a little bit about that. Do you guys have, obviously we won't give any specific examples, but have you seen this not work so well for some couples? Because I know a lot of couples struggle in this area.
I think I have for sure. Maybe not necessarily in our industry, but I think so much comes down to pride. Just being prideful and kind of not being willing to be humble, I guess. Not that we're humble in any way, but I think that I'm really fortunate as a woman that Derek is, and I think you mentioned this earlier, he's very self-aware, and we both try to be that way about ourselves, about our business. We're very, very critical, and we're always trying to look at okay, where are we weak? Where can we get better? But I think that because Derek has kind of adopted this attitude, he's not threatened in any way by, whatever my strengths are or if I'm good at something. And I think sometimes that can be tough for couples working together. It's just when there is this power struggle or this, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I don't know. I really think that I see that a lot. And the way it looks is, just not being respectful of one another, cutting each other off, or always having to be right, those kinds of things. Mm. And again, certainly we're not perfect, but I think that kind of letting pride go sometimes is a big thing.
Yeah, and I think, and one thing I always tell people about Carrie Beth is she's a high roader. She'll take the high road when, whenever I'm kind of like just being a little bit ridiculous and I'm kind of stuck in some sort of argument and I want to win it. And there are times where I've just seen her just be so willing to just kind of say, okay, I can tell right now. And I know when I'm pushing her buttons too much, but she's really good at that. And I've seen her do it with friends and family before, where I'm listening to a phone conversation. I'm like, you're in an argument, and I know that person is completely wrong. But she's willing to step back and say, for the sake of that relationship, just kind of take the high road. And I think that comes out a lot, and because she's willing to do that, I'm more willing to do that at times too, when I can tell that she's in a place where, I need to kind of just step away. So.
Well, I think like you said, putting the relationship first, whether that's our marriage or relationships with our employees, kind of not letting success, whatever that may look like, get in the way of the relationship. And I think that's a challenge every day. But just kind of that balance.
And it is a balance. Just everything you guys are saying, I think, wow, this is just true for relationships across the board, whether you're working together or not. My wife and I used to work full-time together, and we said we'd been married in dog years because we saw each other so much. And I'm thinking, I wish I'd had a podcast from you guys when we were traveling, because you're describing a little bit of our situation in that I'm the creative, new idea every 5 minutes, a little bit all over the place, and she has a master's of accounting degree. So, so we're very different that way. We've made that work really well in our marriage, but it feels like we could not make it work as well working together. Do you have any thoughts on why that would be the case? I need you to counsel me is what I'm asking.
I don't know if I'm qualified to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure you are.
I know that Carrie Beth mentioned humility and pride, but in some ways too, I think it might be a little bit deeper than that. I think personalities, obviously you're a creative and she's an accountant type numbers person, and there's got to be a lot of differences there. But Carrie Beth and I took a personality test earlier this year, and we were complete opposites. And so I don't know to what level you guys are complete opposites. It sounds like you would be, but maybe there's in the air that is there maybe some kind of clash or tension. So.
I think too, this truly is all we've ever known. And I don't know what your situation was, but I think that we're really fortunate and really blessed because from, the moment we got married, I mean, I was still kind of working part-time remotely for the company I used to work for in Buckhead to help financially when we got married. But really from the time we got married, we have worked together every single day. And so I think maybe because of that, we've never known anything different. And I think too, we always try to remind ourselves just how lucky we are. I mean, it truly is. I mean, we have tough days and tough times, but at the end of the day, like we've got a pretty good life. We heard the Gary Black, who's the ag commissioner of Georgia, speak a few weeks ago. And one of the things that he said that really stood out was, you need to wake up every day and say, I get to do this, I get to do this. How lucky am I? And I've been thinking about that a lot. I mean, I think we're just through the good and the bad. We've got it pretty good.
It feels like everything you guys are talking about, like if I had to put it under one category, and I could be off here, it feels like you're talking about perspective, the perspectives of how you see each other's strengths and how you see each other's weaknesses, how you see your own strengths and your own weaknesses, see each other's roles, things like, I get this, I get to do this. It just seems like that is so powerful for both of us. And just, we talk about too, is seeing the good in each other. There's a researcher named John Gottman, and he says one of the things that couples that have a marriage that are working together that really, really works is they give each other the most generous explanation for their behavior, and they believe it. So they judge each other more highly in every category than that spouse would judge themselves. So it seems like you guys have got like these great, as my friend says, positive goggles on with each other to see, I'm going to see you through this lens of grace, and I'm going to see you through this lens of seeing the best in you. And that is just good stuff. So I thought really, you guys, this interview was going to be more about you giving us like practical ways to work together. And I think it's turned. I think this has turned in a different direction. But do you have any advice for couples that maybe are working together and maybe they're struggling? What would be a piece of advice that you would give them? You've given a lot of great advice so far, but is there any other thoughts on that?
Well, I think a real practical thing to do is take a personality test. If you haven't done that, you can really hone in on, understanding your spouse maybe in a different way, or just a more tangible, kind of right in your face kind of way.
Yeah. And I think our faith certainly plays a huge role in our business. I mean, I think that God has blessed us for seeking his guidance. I mean, we, start every day with a prayer and we end every day with a prayer. And before any tough conversation that we've had, anytime we've had to let somebody go or just had, one of those uncomfortable situations, we pause for a minute and pray before the person comes in. Just those small things, they don't always feel super powerful in the moment, but I think that God honors that, I think, and we may not be doing this forever, in 5 years that we may be laughing at ourselves, I mean, hopefully we're trying to make sure we're still going to be doing it in 20 years, but I think we've been really fortunate, and I think God has honored what we're doing here. Right.
The prayer sets, again, back to perspective. You guys praying in the morning, praying at night, it just readjusts our perspective, doesn't it? Like it just changes things. It really, really does.
Absolutely.
A couple other questions for you guys, and I'm going to let you get back to Peach State Pride, so we'll all remember to love our state, which I do now. And you guys have done a great job with that. It is branded all over the state for sure. You see that peach everywhere. So what about you guys? Did you grow up having strong examples of marriage?
Yeah, both of us did. Both of our parents are still together, and it's kind of funny. My dad, my mom just understands, when to shake her head about my dad, and and I think they just got they have a good marriage. So
same. And I think we're very critical and kind of analytical people, and so I think we're always looking at our parents' marriages and saying, "Oh, now I understand why they did this or why they did that, or I see this trait in my mom or in my dad." But I mean, we're super, super fortunate. And we both have older siblings too. So, looking to them as examples, we're just really lucky there.
So you give a great example about, hey, my mom didn't shake her head at my dad. We talk on the podcast, we want to make marriage real, fun, and simple. And I watch that dynamic happen a lot. And it's not always this case. Sometimes it's reverse. But I have seen wives, their husband will say something, or maybe they're telling a story wrong, and she corrects him. And again, this can go both ways. But just that shaking of the head that says, you're crazy, I don't believe in you. That's really huge to men. And I imagine it's the same with women. But you go, these little simple things to say, I mean, that's just a sign of disrespect when someone's like, you're so crazy. I can't believe you did that again. I can't believe you're always doing this. You're always doing that. But just those simple things are going, it's just a simple show of respect that I'm not going to be in front of the kids and in front of other people. I'm never going to do that. That's a great example. Carrie, what about for you? Was there something your mom and dad modeled that you went, wow, I would really think if people are listening right now, that would be a great thing for any married person to do?
Gosh, I feel like there are a lot of things. I really am extremely, extremely fortunate to just have two great godly parents. My dad, this just kind of sticks out. Every morning he read us a devotion over breakfast, and usually we were half asleep, but he had a pretty demanding job. He was a hospital CEO, and just, he would work late at times, but he made that such a priority every morning. He had this, devotion book. It was like a 365-day thing. And every morning he would read the scripture with it, and then pray for us. And that was just, I took it for granted, I'm sure, at the time. But I think that was extremely powerful because it showed us that was important. And even though maybe that's not a marriage thing, I think that kind of let us know who he was and what was important to him. And so just seeing him lead our family in that way was so powerful.
So we always talk about there's one simple thing. Each week we want to leave listeners with, what is one simple thing that you would say to couples that are working together, that you'd say, man, if you could do this or see it like this or this perspective, because you said a lot of great things, but if you had to boil it down to one thing for those couples, what would it be?
I think just always put your marriage first. Don't let anything get in the way of that. Don't let success get in the way of that. Don't let your pride get in the way of that. Just knowing that is the most important thing, is the marriage that God's given you, to be a steward of that above all else.
And I think, like we talked about earlier, being able to shut things off at some point, kind of go beyond that. We never go to bed angry at each other. We always try to resolve things before going to bed. So just kind of having those little cutoff spots bring you back to marriage and the importance of that relationship above all.
I love that, because it could be so easy for everything to leak into your business, to leak in all the time. You're going, you know what? We may have this business for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 15 months. At the end of the day, we're still going to have each other. So that's so, so powerful. Carrie, Derek, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know you guys have got a lot of things to do today, but we appreciate it. It's been good for people that work together and those of us who don't. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Hope we helped somebody.
I know that you helped me. So thank you so much.
Thank you.